Again, I want to apologize for the late start. That, I don't know, I've had roughly 200 plus meetings, and we've never started one this late, but that was because we had other board business to start with. Before we get to citizens' request to speak, we have recognition, I guess. Turn it over to Dr. Olet.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. We want to recognize we do have 3 board members this evening, which this is their last board meeting, some of which have had a lot of meetings, and so I just want to kind of go through. We do have plaques for each of the board members. I'd like to have an opportunity to talk about each of them individually, but also then I'd open it up to any of the rest of the board that would like to make any comments, or board members like to make comments. But I'm going to go through briefly with mine comments, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the board, and then if the individual board members would like to make comments, that would be fine as well. And so I want to talk first about Rob Brown. Rob has been on the board 9 out of the 10 years that I've been here. Rob was part of the interview committee that I interviewed with as a school board candidate. I remember on the auditorium stage at Lee Auditorium at Willow River Elementary School. And so Rob's been a great board member for us, tremendous background with operational services and things along those lines. Has really been done a nice job with a lot of things, has been part of the board through some of our most challenging, fun situations, whether it be COVID, elementary rebounding, referendums, and so that's been a great experience having Rob on the board. He will definitely be missed. Next, I have Lynn Robson, who although has only been on the board for 1 year with this stint, was part of the board that hired me 10 years ago, and was on the board for 9 years. Is that right? Yep. Prior to that, and so Lynn has been an absolute voice of reason, and I always have appreciated. She doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't matter with me or anybody else, and so it's going to be hard seeing her go and no longer being on the board. And like I said, with Lynn and Jamie leaving, those were 2 of the board members that actually acted on hiring me, and so the last 2 that are still on the board. And so I know that she will still stay very active in school business and the community, and so, but she will be missed. And then our last board member that I wanted to address, sitting to my left, is Jamie Johnson, who has been board president the entire time I've been here for 10 years, and I think board president 11 years. Is that correct? When we always, on the day of a board meeting, I used to be a little more punctual about it earlier in the morning, called Jamie to go over the agenda, any surprises or anything that needs to be aware of. And then as things got busier, he would then eventually send a text saying, "Are we not talking today?" And so I said, "Oh, we'll get to it." But then when I called him today about noon and said, "Well, this is it. This is 10 years of him and I having these conversations at least twice a month on Mondays, and going over the board agenda and anything that we have going on or anything to be ready through." And so, having Jamie off the board, again, it was on the board that hired me 10 years ago, and he's the only board president that I know in Hudson, although we've had people fill in when he's been gone, I think a couple meetings, and those fill-ins have always said those meetings have gone much faster. I think Bruce would always comment on that, and even Bob has had some speedier meetings than Jamie. So, I would be remiss if I didn't say, how much I will miss having all 3 of you on the board. These jobs are very challenging. They're very difficult, but being on the board is very difficult. And it's without the support of the board, it's hard to do what we need to do. Administratively, educationally, all 3 of these people, there is no doubt in my mind through the last 10 years I've been with them, try to make every decision based on what they think is best for kids, what's good for the district. Sometimes that may not always be what's good for everybody involved, but that's part of being a leader and being part of the decision-making crew, is you have to make decisions that sometimes aren't always popular, but you do what's right for the district. And so I feel very fortunate to have gotten to know all three of these individuals over the last 10 years, and look forward to getting our new school board members on board and getting to know them as well. And so I will turn it over to any board members before we give them an opportunity to speak, if any other board members would like to speak.
Dr. Rowlett? You know I like to speak first. Then nobody else can take what I'm going to say. It's been a long-term thing. I just want to say how much I've enjoyed working with you, Rob, and Jamie, and Lynn. I feel like this is a working board, a board that functions, and that's thanks to the three of you and what you bring to the table. I am so thankful for people like you who believe in public service. Don't be a stranger. If you want to go out for a drink, I would love to buy you a drink, or you could buy me one. So, you guys are the best.
Mr. Brown. I just, again, thank you to Rob and Lynn and Jamie, not just for your board work, but Rob's involved in church and JA, I believe, over the years, and Lynn, Rotary, and the Hockey Association, everything else, and Jamie, too long to list. I ran for school board because of Jamie Johnson and his leadership in our community, and his goal of, intelligent, well-reasoned leadership, but also with a heart. And I've just grown to appreciate all the things he has done for Hudson, and things that I would not be willing to give the time, and I don't know anybody else that does put in the time. On a funny note, I have to hold up his little speech here, which this gives me terrible anxiety, because every graduation, Jamie's sitting next to me on stage while the students are walking in, and he's scribbling. And that's what he does. I don't know how he does it. He pulls off his speech. It always sounds great, controlled, and again, well measured and important, for our community. But I have the shakes just looking at that paper. So, but thank you all.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you all.
Bob.
It's been so great to work and learn from the three of you as a newbie who's still learning more every day. I haven't told you this before, Jamie, but I was afraid of you before I joined the board, because you can come across very serious, you're a lawyer, but, you've just been such a great leader. You are thoughtful and funny, and you also give things the seriousness that they deserve, and you put in a lot of time and reflection. Lynn, thank you for stepping up when we needed someone to join the board. It's been great to get to know you and learn from you. And you too, Rob, thank you for your years of service, all of you.
All right, I'm last, but I probably will repeat things. But being on this board, I think a lot of people from the outside look in and think, oh my gosh, they must fight or they must not speak after board meetings, and that couldn't be any further from the truth. We all kind of know each other's families or what's going on in their lives, and it's really been special to get to know the three of you. Whether we agree all the time, I think that we've always had such a lot of respect for one another, and I so appreciate that. Rob, everybody brings something different to the table, and you bring such an expertise in building, and so we can always count on you for building, architecture, all of the above. We can always count on you to be watching that and to ask the right questions. And I think you've always been really great at being a good financial steward for our taxpayers. You're somebody that I can always look to look for that. Lynn, you jumped on. We're more than willing to help. And one thing I've never doubted about you is that you are in this for the kids. Wholeheartedly, and with no expectation, no other bias or agenda. Thank you. See, she's still helping. And that's so appreciated. And Jamie, you are an absolute staple in this community. And for all the time that you've put on this board. I so appreciate it. Maybe I was a little intimidated as well. But you've really been a steady leader here, and we can always look to you to say, okay, now what? And you always somehow know the answers. So I appreciate that, and I know Hudson appreciates all of the time and effort that you put into our community, and I know it will, not that I hope it continues, I know it will continue, that we see you all around sprinkling your magic around town. So much appreciated to all of you.
Thanks, Kate. Well, Rob, I guess I'll give you the first retort.
Well, I wasn't going to call it that. But, you know, I've been reflecting on this meeting and, you know, looking at Lynn, Jamie, you know, of the three of us, I have the least tenure, 3 terms. Amongst the three of us, there's 21 years of board experience, 21 years. And the things that we've seen together, you know, as Nick mentioned, you know, COVID, the high school plan, the PST that led to the successful passage. Jamie, thank you for yours and others' leadership there. There's been so much good that's happened, even through some really challenging times. And I'm just grateful for the friendship, the grace, the involvement of every single person that's on this board today and that have been on this board, because it is a commitment. I'd like to thank Nick for your leadership, your willingness to always have a conversation, to make time, even though you're busy. Thank the entire cabinet, all of you, and those that came before you, some of you. You have to work with this board and provide a lot of great information, and you're fantastic at your jobs. Tim, thanks for being the glue. You know, you make a lot of this possible. And so with that, I again, can't thank you enough. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the school district does into the future.
Tim didn't give me a microphone, so I'm guessing that means I can't speak.
We usually do that.
Thank you. I just want to thank the cabinet, Dr. Ouellette, and my fellow board members. It was great serving with you for this last year. It's a big learning curve when you step onto this board. There's a lot to learn and a lot to know. And so I thank you for your grace in reminding me of how things have changed and teaching me things as well. But Nick's right. I'm in this for the kids, and I'll continue to be involved in the district because of the kids. So I think there's still an active role when you're not on the board of being involved in these community and community conversations. So I plan to continue that work, and I think Kate said it best. We come from very different backgrounds, and I've never served on a board. This board was the most cohesive, well thought of each other and well respectful of each other on differences of opinions. So I want to thank you guys.
All right. As my tradition, when we have subjects on the agenda, I like to be the last to speak if I can. There's been a few exceptions over the last 12 years, but I just want to start with expressing my gratitude. I'm just grateful for the privilege and honor to work on the Hudson Board of Education. People say that it is a thankless job, but it's not true. I've had lots of people thank us for our work. As a board, we are a team. We are, I think many people said it, a cohesive group, but that reflects what's necessary. To be a high-functioning school district, you need a high-functioning board. We have awesome staff, and we have an awesome administration, and we have, frankly, awesome families as well. It takes parents' involvement to achieve what this district has achieved. So it's not true that it's a thankless job. It can be extremely difficult, but it's also extremely rewarding, and we know it's extremely important. We are in the business of improving people's lives, setting the path for the next generation, for our community and our state and our nation. Lots of things get blamed on COVID, but if there's one thing that COVID did, was showed the importance of in-person learning. Talk that teachers can be replaced with machines is just not true. Education is a people business, and I'll have lots of memories, but it will be the people that I've met and had the pleasure of working with that make a difference. There's been some great people. I want to name, I've worked with 14 different school board members. Dan Turnahoy, he had 20 years of experience, and I never thought that I was going to serve more than him, and I won't say that I won't, because if I miss it enough, who knows, but
Did you hear that?
yeah.
Your wife's here, you know.
I know, my wife is here, she's going to get her due in this speech, but on that same board with Dan Turnahoy was Tom Holland, Brian Bell, Sandy Gerke, Lynn was on the board when I started. So when Bruce and I got elected in 2013, we had I think, average of 8 years of experience on the board. Within 2 years after we got elected, we went down to 2.2 years of experience. And so we learned a lot of things together. So after I became president, then Carrie joined the board. Heather Loughlin, Sue Katas, Rob was in that election, and Bob Bauman, Molly Powers, Kate Garza, and Megan Rosowski. 14 very professional, high-functioning people that this district's been blessed to have as their leaders, and it's been a pleasure to work with. That also extends to our superintendent. The only job tougher than being a school board member is being a school superintendent. He usually gets the blame for everything when it goes wrong, and when people have disagreements or concerns, they get directed to him. And he's been, again, somebody who has navigated us through some highs and lows that this district may never experience again. Contrary to popular opinion, there were times of disagreement. And while we didn't agree always on an approach or an agenda, we understood each other and recognized that we had a common goal, and that was putting kids first. So literally hundreds of staff and families that I've interacted with, I want to thank. I have to thank my wife, Jean, who's here tonight. Spouses particularly put up with a lot, and there's been well over 300 meetings that I've attended, and it takes a lot of time, hundreds and hundreds of hours, but Jean's always been there supporting me. She even went along to one of our national conventions, which was a pleasure to be able to have her see what our district does to always try to stay excellent. Of all those state conventions and national conventions and conferences we go to, we find that we're already doing things really well here, and it just reinforces what we do. So to the new school board members, I just hope that you continue that commitment to excellence, to set an example of learning and understanding your role, keeping an open mind, communicate by listening first and speaking last. The harder the decision, the longer you need to keep an open mind, and the longer you need to listen to ensure that you have all the facts before you make the best decision for kids. So I will be a resource for those new board members if they wish, since I'm going to have a lot more time on my hands now. But again, sincere thank you for all of you for the last 12 years. I'm very proud of the different things that we've done, lots and lots of memories, but I will have very much cherished the time that I served here. So thank you very much. Oh, One group photo? Okay.
While they're taking pictures, I just want to say in the microphone that these plaques were made by our tech ed class, so that's pretty awesome.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to citizen requests to speak about non-action items. I want to point out that we had several requests. Normally, we get over 5 total, then we reduce the amount of time, but since a couple of these requests to speak are actually on an action item, we'll take that up during that portion of the meeting.
Sorry,
What?
one of those people would like to speak right away. Rachel would like to speak right away.
Okay, all right. So, okay, so I guess I got an order that I'm being given here, so losing my discretion as president just already, so. All right, Roy Scholberg, do you have,
Yeah, thanks, Tim, for putting me up first. Appreciate that. Well, the old people of Hudson wanted me to come up and speak. 55 years ago, I graduated from high school, and about 20 years ago, I was on the facilities task force. That was Ron Berth was the superintendent, and Tracy was on that with me. And we spent hundreds of hours trying to figure out what to do with our secondary high school situation. And a large group of us met and met and met and met, but what we didn't do is we didn't do the community engagement, Jamie, like you did, and Nick, and Rob, and Lynn. And so you made such a big difference. I live very close to the high school, and I didn't think that pig's ear could ever be made into a silk purse, but it is. It's just so charming of a school, and I'm filled with pride that it's there. And as much as I tried to lift the ball, I couldn't do it, and you guys did. So a sincere thank you for that. And Rob and Lynn, you're great friends. But Jamie, as a fellow member of the bar, you made my profession very proud. And I know that your lawyer skills came in very handy on a number of occasions. And that's why we get paid the big bucks, is to take the hits, right? So again, thank you for all you did in that regard. But I also wanted to, at this time, provide a little history lesson, because today is a big day. So today is April 14th. And way back on January 10th, in 49 before Christ, Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon. What does that mean? Crossing the Rubicon meant the end of the Roman Empire. And the Roman Republic. And it started the end of that society and the beginning of a different society, an empire, a dictatorship. And I'm sad to say that today, our US president disobeyed the US Supreme Court. So of all of the constitutional law studies you've ever had, remember today, April 14th, a day that the line was crossed. And I just hope that our different systems of government that we have here, our 3 branches, can rise up and save our democracy. So, sorry for the history lesson. Today's a big day, and it moves me to make this statement. But again, thank you so much for your service, and for the new board members. challenges are ahead. Take
Right.
care.
Thank you. Next up, Rachel Miller.
Hello, I'm Rachel Miller. I have been teaching here in the district for 34 years. I am a single mother of a student at North Hudson. She has special needs. I am here to discuss the possible action item, which is the employee benefit renewal. And I just want to say that this is so personal to me as a staff member, as a parent in the community, as well as a resident. For myself, healthcare is vital for my family. Big changes that would be made would be absolutely devastating. With her specialized medications, her irregular procedures, surgeries, appointments, when I think of some of the changes that could be made, it takes my breath away. It brings me to tears. And so I am here to let you know that knowing that my health care benefit could change tonight is scary. And it is also scary for colleagues. Big changes without prior serious discussion and no feedback from those that would be impacted is frightening. I think transparency is something that is important. I have served on the Teacher Advisory Committee for many years now. I feel we are a small group with good ideas and excellent discussions. We know that our discussions were a part of the community communications and those meetings. We know how powerful that was. I believe that something this big as a change to our health care should go to that committee first. And then that feedback should go to the board to consider before we make a big decision. I understand, and we understand, that tweaks may be necessary, but that allowing TAC and the insurance committee opportunities to talk about this and talk about these changes would be very vital and important. TAC meets on Wednesday. Please postpone any action until after you get teacher feedback from TAC and the insurance committee. I truly believe that collaboration and working together now and moving forward is very important. Thank you, and I also want to thank the outgoing board members. I appreciate all that you've done for the Hudson community.
Right. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for finishing within 3 minutes. All right, next up is John Dole.
I brought my stop. I brought my stopwatch.
Go
Is it
ahead.
3 minutes?
You got it, I started.
Oh, wait, no, I'm not ready yet. Okay, now I'm ready. So I'm John Dole, and happy to be here, everyone. I'm really happy to be here now that the referendum has passed. I wanted to take the chance to thank you all for the opportunity to put it on the ballot, to let us work on it, to let us get it passed for the community. And thank you to the board members for everything that you've done that are outgoing. Rob, Jamie, Lynn, thank you. So we know that as part of Friends of Hudson School, the YES committee, member of the community, we know that the referendum is only step one of working through capacity, enrollment, and budget challenges, right? Okay, it's step one. And that we're still facing challenges about budget, capacity, enrollment, et cetera, et cetera. I just wanted to come up here and to verbally advocate and say, I hope that the next steps are a really public process with lots of community involvement that's focused on data and fact-based decisions, such as the operating costs of all the schools, enrollment projections, current headcount, future headcounts, occupancy rates of current schools and capacities, utilization rates, geography of each school, school performance, and most importantly, where kids live now, and to our best estimates of where we think kids are going to live in the community in the future. And finally, something that can't always be forgotten, as Roy said earlier, the historical impact. We have particularly 2 schools and areas in the district that have been in service for more than 100 years. We can't forget the history and the lifeblood of the community has been impacted by those 2 institutions. Neighborhood schools are important. They're important to where kids live, they're foundations to the communities, and we want them to stay. So lastly, just wanted to offer my volunteering, happy to be a part of it, and a little bit about me. So I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of Wisconsin and Minnesota. I have 15 years of experience in facilities operations and space planning construction projects. I currently work for a global company where I support 100+ locations, and all I do every day is think about everybody's favorite topic: space planning, facilities operations, space utilization rates, and how to best spend our money on buildings that we need to still meet the requirements at work or in the communities. So, happy to volunteer. I'm really glad that I'm here to say thanks. The referendum passed. I'm looking forward to be a part of the next steps going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have Mark Dolan.
Oh, Mark Dolan?
Mark Dolan.
They're just real simple. I'm Mark Dolan, John Dolan's dad, resident of Hudson Township, a registered professional engineer, state of Wisconsin, part-time teacher at UW Stout. I asked 2 questions. I think one says, is the tech ed classes at the high school funded properly? For that would be the welding and the small engine classes for the students. Item number 2 is, in the K-4, do the elementary students still have to read aloud? Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up is Scott. Well, Scott, I guess we've already had one that commented on an action item. Do you want to wait till we discuss this as a board, or do you want
That's
to
fine.
go now?
I can go now, I guess.
It's up to you, your choice.
Yeah, I'll do it now.
Okay.
2 minutes, though.
Yeah, for you, 2 minutes. Right.
So I'm Scott Ellingson, and I'm a longtime teacher here and parent and do a lot of different things, coach too a little bit. Before I really begin, I just want to thank Lynn and Jamie and Rob for your service, and it's been good working with you guys, and I know I could always call you up and have good conversations, and just really appreciate your service. So Rachel really talked well, I thought, about having this go before TAC, before a final decision or an action item is made before you. So she said that really well, and I totally agree. The Dolans have spoken, and I got to know them by working on the YES committee. I worked with them on the YES committee, and I think, we really worked hard to steer our message to a good all-district message, not just a few buildings or anything like that. And we obviously were successful. And I think without the committee's work, we'd be in a very different situation tonight. So thank you very much for the YES committee. Thank you for your work. And I just really think it's important to keep that in mind. I don't think that we and the teachers and all the support we got from our state organization did all that to then have the insurance come and really real fast and quick without a lot of debate and input before us. So I think it's really important that we wait, okay, have the TAC committee come up with their ideas and get their feedback. The insurance committee that I also serve on, we had a few meetings, little discussion, but mainly a lot of getting information, nodding and everything. I think we thought there were more meetings to come, and all of a sudden, here we are. And just so you know, the committee itself did not recommend a significant increase for health insurance. It did not recommend major change to copay for dental. And we did talk about educating people, and we talked about maybe an optional vision coverage, but we did not say, hey, go ahead and put the rates up really high, especially if the referendum passes. So I just want to make that very clear. Board members, I've heard at all the meetings I've been watching, I've heard you talk about attract and retain quality teachers. That's what impacts the classroom, the kids the most. This move would put us back 2 $2,000 per family insurance policy, over $2,000. That's going backwards in terms of trying to be competitive. And that's the leading thing that we have when we compete, especially against Minnesota, is our benefits. So again, we need to think about that. There are different ways to do that. We do understand, like Rachel said, that we do need to make some tweaks, but let's get some feedback and talk more about that. The board policy changes usually has a first reading one night, another meeting it has a second reading and some action. We think that something this big deserves that kind of attention and that kind of timing. So really, really plead with you to consider that. And you know, our paras and our support staff would be even more impacted than us. So please, let's wait, let's get it right and get the feedback. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Scott. All right. Next up, our reports. Turn over to Dr. Olet.
Yeah. So first up is the election report and referendum results. So election report, you can see how the vote totals came in. And the top three vote getters, as you can see, Brian Dahl, Aaron Gerlach, and Maria Rudy. The third highest vote getter, Maria Rudy, that serves the remainder of the 3-year term. So she, that position would actually be up for re-election again next April, is how that works. Additionally, I want to express a sincere thank you and gratitude to people that are both in this room and not in this room. We have Bev Hagan, we have Tammy McKenzie, we have Kate Garza, who were our board of canvassers. Typically, that's a pretty low-key process. I think, Kate, you've done it multiple years. You come in, it's about 20 minutes, and it's done. Not so much this year. And because all of a sudden, we had a very, very, very close vote as it related to the referendum. It was within 7 votes that the referendum did pass, which then had an individual request a recount. And so that's where I also want to give a sincere thank you to my administrative assistant, Tim Miner, who was the logistics behind everything related to the recount, because we received the recount petition on Tuesday, Tim, right? And by Thursday at 9 a.m., the canvass board, led by Kate, was conducting the recount. And it went all day Thursday and into the evening, and then all day Friday and into the evening to get to our recount. And in the end, the vote total held. The difference was it was 7,412 votes to 7,406 votes. And so we'll be finalizing, I believe, some of that paperwork coming up, which people will have. But it was quite the process. I stopped over multiple times to see how things were going. A thank you to the county and the county clerk, who put in tremendous amount of time and effort helping us go through this. Little did we know that a recount when a recount is requested, it's the municipality or school district in which the recount is being requested that has to actually conduct that. And we don't hold elections. That's not what we do as a school district. But we apparently hold recounts. And so it was, a matter of within 24 hours, Tim talking with the different town and city and village clerks. We secured 6 counting machines, volunteer poll workers, and got all the ballots. The county allowed us to utilize their facility to do the recount. And it was thankfully they allowed us to do that because, not only do you have to recount the ballots, you have to worry about ballot security, you have to worry about machine security, you have to worry about all of these other things to maintain the integrity of the election. And I can say without hesitation, everybody involved did just an absolutely outstanding job. And so it was quite impressive how quickly this all came together and how well everyone did through this process. But the report is, yes, that the referendum did pass, and that we'll continue to move forward with that. I don't know, Kate, if there's anything you want to say related to the election or anything, since you were a much bigger role as the clerk this year.
And who knew? That was the clerk's job.
Didn't know it when you got appointed last year. that you were going to be the arbiter of election decisions.
Yes, yes. Honestly, all hands are on deck. Tons of, not tons, but the amount of people needed were more than willing to help, and it was run by an observer, called it a well-oiled machine. Tim was impeccable. Very, very helpful. Christine Hines, the clerk of St. Croix County, was incredibly helpful. And then everybody who was there, just to make sure that our election was held with integrity, and indeed it was. So it was interesting to watch it all happen and kind of learn what a recount looks like. So we found one change in the vote total, but of course that did not make any difference in the referendum, so it remains as passed.
Cool. Thanks. Any questions on the elections? Okay. Hudson Safe report, I believe we have individual from Hudson Safe is going to come up and speak. Yeah, right up here is just fine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Schneider. I am the co-president of Hudson Safe and one of the co-chairs for the Senior All-Night Party. I came last year as my first year of co-chair and spoke to you, I believe, at the April meeting. So I had asked Dr. Ouellette about coming to provide an update as we gear up for the Senior All-Night Party coming in just a few short weeks. It will take place right after commencement on Friday, May 23rd. We're thrilled to share that over 50% of our senior class have already registered, and our goal is to have about 80% of the class registered to attend. We feel confident that we will get there. I should also say that my co-chair, Stephanie Campbell, was not able to be here tonight, but she sends her thanks and appreciation to the board. As always, the Hudson community continues to show up in amazing ways for our school district. Financially, we have hit the majority of our goals, and we're expecting that the remainder of our expenses will be covered by incoming registrations. I wanted to give just a little bit of a perspective, Stephanie and I had previously served as PTO presidents at Rivercrest Elementary for about 10 years, up until 2024. And in that time, the PTO at Rivercrest operated at the same budget annually that the Senior All-Night Party operates for one night. So that gives you an idea of the scope of what we are dealing with. Our new challenge this year has been the setup, because graduation is on a Friday. And historically, we have set up on Friday evening for a Saturday night party following commencement. We are trying to get everything in place from 1 o'clock until approximately 8 p.m. when we will be welcoming volunteers in for the party. It is proving to be tricky. We've only got about 13% of our volunteer needs met for that setup piece. But we're going to navigate it for this year, and we sincerely appreciate that we saw for 2026 it will be a no school day. So thank you to this board. That makes a huge difference for the future planning to continue the Senior All-Night Party. We are just so grateful for the continued support from the board, from the HHS administration, Mr. Ballard, and a special thank you to Mr. Halverson, because he works very closely with us and is so patient with my never-ending questions that I have in emails, so thank you. Next year, we will be celebrating 40 years of senior parties at Hudson High School. It's an incredible tradition that we are proud to keep going strong. We would love to invite all of the board members, past and incoming, to the party on the 23rd to volunteer and see what it's all about. It's really a great evening, a great way to celebrate our senior class of 2025. I have a handout in your packet that Tim placed there. There is a QR code to the sign up if you should feel inclined, and we would love to see you there. So thank you all for your support, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, Alicia, for the
President?
report. We got board members that might have questions. so-
Yes. I just wondered, so I see here that you can do this QR code if you want to volunteer.
Yes.
Is this, or is there other ways, so if people are watching, they would know where to go to volunteer?
Yes, they can go onto the Hudson Safe Facebook page.
Okay.
And we have the volunteer sign up there. They do need to have a background check on file with the Hudson School District. And if they have questions, they can reach out to us through Facebook or through our website, hudsonsafe.org, to gather more information. Yes, thank you.
Molly?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say, having done the senior all-night party and worked a little bit with Alicia, I would urge community members, parents even of younger kids, everyone here to volunteer, whether set up, if you don't like to stay up all night, but come at least do it one time, because it is so much fun. And these kids are together for the last time. And whether it is kind of like the Breakfast Club, if you're old like me, there's all these groups, but then they get thrown together again, and they're like 17, 18, but they're like 5-year-olds. They're like kindergartners. They're having so much fun, and it is a wonderful experience. And you will go and see, mostly, kids are great. They're awesome. They really are awesome. Yes, they make mistakes, but they're just wonderful. And Alicia and Stephanie put on the best show ever. It is so fantastic. So please volunteer. These things don't happen if you don't volunteer. And I'm sure Jamie can get behind this, that the reason it started was because kids my age, when I was in high school, used to drink and drive a lot and get into terrible accidents and die. So we haven't had that. So what a great thing. So thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it so much. And volunteer.
Yes,
Thank you.
Molly, I can second that motion about the importance of the Hudson Safe concept. My wife and I, we were chairs when we were celebrating the 25th anniversary. That was 15 years ago, when our kids were juniors and seniors going through that, because it's a 2-year commitment, you're a co-chair. And we had, back then, Dean Knutson and his wife Sonia, and then Dennis Durst and Lois were co-chairs. But it is something for somebody in their 40s, I think, to do, because it's easier to stay up all night than. But maybe I'll talk to Gene after the meeting. We'll see if we can sign up. All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. President. And,
Thank you.
And I would just say, as one of those people that likes to stay up late, and those that do volunteer, unlike Molly, late at night, there's plenty of pizza and Mountain Dew. So.
And coffee.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Alicia. Thank you. All right. Then we have a report from Dave. What's that? Not here yet. All right. Well, yeah. We're juggling with the schedule because of our late start and everything. So community conversation, recap. Nick, why don't you take the next 3 items?
Thanks, appreciate that. So, community conversation recap, we did have a follow-up meeting. We sent out, I think it was 170 invitations, is that right, Tracy, to people from last year? We might even been higher than that. The invitations we invited? I said 170. 220, okay, sorry. So we sent out 220 invitations, plus we put it out there for people to come. You know, we had somewhere between 30 and 50 people that did end up showing up, and really what it was an opportunity for us to follow up with that, anybody that was involved with the community conversation last spring, to say, hey, the time that you put in last spring, it wasn't just an opportunity to say, okay, we did it, now we're moving on. We actually took that feedback, which actually moves into number E, or letter E on the reports, which is the district strategic plan. And that's what we did on Thursday night last week. So we gave folks an opportunity to give us feedback on, are we hitting the targets based on the feedback we got from the community conversation with, drafting our strategic plan, and what does that look like? In our strategic plan, we have spent a lot of time looking at this, coming up with the different areas, how are we going to impact students, how are we going to impact staff, how does it impact parents and families, and then also community members. And it's been broken into those 4 different areas, as you can see on here: educational excellence, well-being, partnerships, and also operations. And so what we've done as a district leadership team is we've been meeting over the last few months to kind of come up with some of the actions that could be taken in order to make sure that we're meeting the direction that the community asked us to go in after last spring's community conversation. From there, we had a lot of different ideas for each of the areas, but knowing that you can't do everything well. You have to be able to target some things, and you have to be able to pull some things out. And so some of the things didn't quite make it into the strategic plan, but then also we had to look at, we broke our leadership team into 5 groups. An elementary group, a middle school group, a high school group, and then an district instructional side, and a district operational side. And what we did in those groups at the most recent meeting is we started to look at all of these different actions for all these different groups and started to say, okay, if looking at it through the lens of your group, is this an area where you're going to take leadership as far as this part of the plan goes? Not that all of these things aren't important, but really you just can't do everything. Every department can't do everything. Every building can't do everything. Every level can't do everything. And so what you see is those in parentheses behind each of the different actions is what area of emphasis it's going to be. So if it has an E behind it, that means the elementary team said this is going to be an area of emphasis for them as they look forward over the next 5 years. An M would be for the middle school team, H for the high school team, I for instructional, and O for operational. So our next steps and what's going to happen from here with our team is we're going to take the feedback that we got Thursday night, and we're going to start to look at, okay, what are the level of the priorities? So you kind of almost like if you take these different items and you kind of put them in a structure, kind of a 4-box structure. We're up along the left-hand side, maybe you have urgency, and on the bottom you have order of importance. And so we try to look for, trying to figure out, we can't do every item on here starting in September. It just doesn't work that way. And so some of these things are going to roll out over the next 5 years. Some of them are going to take multiple years to roll out. Some of them are things that we're continuing to do. So not everything in this plan is new. Some of these things are extending, building on, expanding, strengthening, a lot of things that we have going on already in the district. And so over the next, like I said, the next few months, we'll be kind of refining this and then really creating kind of strategic action plans for each of the departments so we can create the roadmap and bring it to the board and say, okay, here's our roadmap of how we're going to try to get this strategic plan accomplished over the next 5 years. And then we'll continue to develop the metrics in which we're going to measure whether or not we're getting it done so that we have a way to report out to the community and report out to the board so that there's a level of accountability. It's not just words on a wall. They're actual actions that we're going to take and that we believe will make a difference with our students, our staff, our families, and our community. So that's where we're at as far as kind of a brief update with our strategic plan. Plan on having, some board work session time coming up here in the next couple months once we get it refined even more to make sure that we are hitting where the board would like us to go as well, and then get a final adoption probably sometime this summer. So, questions?
So the goal is to have a strategic plan set in place by school start?
Yes. Yep, that's correct.
All right. Questions? Yes.
Nick? So then the scorecard that we've had historically, that'll be just updated with the new plan?
Yep. So we'll have the scorecard action plans that'll be updated. Those are kind of per department or per area, and then, we'll be re-updating kind of more of a central district scorecard to be able to keep track of all the different components. Yep.
Okay. Next one is a construction update, Nick.
All right. Construction update, we'll kind of go through these. We are making tremendous progress on the construction projects. The first thing out of the gate is, I believe, the middle school. You're starting to see, second picture down, there's work on the swimming pool area. The heating and ventilation systems are being updated. The pool, you can see, is drained, and they have scaffolding through the middle as they put in some destratification fans and things along those lines as we try to improve our air quality there. If you keep going down, you start to see we're turning over 2 more remodeled houses. Actually, tonight, they're moving into them as we speak. Go down a little bit further. This is on the backside of the middle school. Some of the retaining walls being built so we can put our new water-chilled air conditioning system up behind the building, kind of tuck it in there as we work through. Right now, it's kind of a mess as you try to drive back through there, but that'll be all cleaned up by the time we are, by the end of the school year as we move forward. Some additional pictures of, the remodeled house areas. They've really turned out nice. They've done a nice job with them. And then the last couple pictures, you have middle school pool again. I always thought the tile in the pool was blue. Apparently, when you take the water out of it, it's actually white. We don't typically drain the pool all the way down. A lot of people ask us about that. As we talked to the pool chemists, they said water itself doesn't go bad. It's the chemistry that you have to constantly balance. But I think that pool, if I remember correctly, has somewhere around 325,000 gallons of water in it. And so when we ended up emptying that pool, we empty it at a rate of about 2,000 gallons a minute, if you can think about that. And we don't dump it into the sanitary sewer system because obviously the city of Hudson doesn't want to treat water that they don't have to treat. But we are required to actually neutralize the water before we dump it. It goes into the storm system. So the water that actually gets dumped into the storm system, it's been tested so that it is purely basically like tap water. It doesn't have any of the chemicals. It's been neutralized. And it actually dumps into the storm sewers that then go down to a pond back behind the kind of the football, soccer area back there, and then it kind of leaches into the ground so that we're not just dumping, almost 500,000 gallons of water into the sanitary sewer system and asking them to treat it. We've had people ask about that before. The pool should be up and running because we've had a lot of questions about this. The goal is to have it up and running by June 1st. We're also taking advantage while the pool is empty to do repairs on tile work and some of the other pieces in the pool. It's just, pools are a lot of maintenance, and they are a lot of work, and we try to do the best we can to get those things done.
Bruce Hansen's not even on the school
I
board,
know,
and you're
Bruce-
spending a lot of time talking
I
about the
know.
pool.
The reason I spent a lot of time, we've gotten a lot of questions about the pool, so I want to make sure that's on there. You can see, keep going down, again, the retaining wall pictures, science classrooms, if you keep going down with the polished concrete floors as we go through. We had a lot of pictures in the middle school. And then it wouldn't be a construction update if you don't go down a little bit further without a shot of a bathroom and some bathroom tile work in the remodeled bathrooms in the middle school.
No urinals this week.
No urinals this time.
All right.
And you can start to see some of the new carpet. In the first phase, we weren't able to do the carpet in the classrooms because it wasn't in time. And so that carpet is going to get replaced this summer. But in this phase, we were able to get the classroom carpet replaced. It was in time in order to get those things done. So keep working our way down. EP Rock, if you keep going down. EP Rock's changing quite a bit. If you look at the front of the building, it doesn't look quite like it did. The canopy's gone. They're going to be starting the new controlled entrance, secure entrance addition. Actually, I think they started digging that potentially today. I wasn't over there today. The new front drive, that's all of that is happening. You can see the next picture. There's this is back where I think the long jump areas were by the track. That's where the utility yard is going to be, the chiller, the generator, things like that, backup generators, things along those lines are getting that done. You start to see they're getting really close to turning over another section of the building. You can see floors are getting polished and things are starting to look good. The ceilings and everything else getting done, so it's really coming along. You start to see classrooms are starting to get right above that, ceilings, and then, of course, some shots of some bathrooms as we continue to kind of work our way through and some different work through there. North Hudson. Top picture, you start to see classrooms that are getting close to being remodeled. Those are going to, so EP Rock, I think, is about another week out before they'll be turning that over. North Hudson's about a week behind that for that next phase to be turned over. The next page down, you start to see the gym is being painted, and they're working through that component. Keep going down North Hudson, you start to see some classrooms that are getting really close. Outside of North Hudson Elementary, the outside's actually taking shape with the brickwork and the windows and things along those lines. You see the scaffolding where they're finishing up some of that stuff. All in all, we're moving along. We've picked up some time in these most recent phases and still plan on being able to open on time. There are going to be a lot of moving pieces and a lot of work done this summer, but the construction manager and architects have been working hard to try to make sure that we stay on track, stay on budget, and right now we're still on budget and still on time, so that's a good sign. So,
Rob, it wouldn't be a construction update without a question from you. So,
Thank you, Jamie. So any notable change orders or anything that's worth sharing?
You know, I mean, yeah, we've had some different change orders that have come through as it's related to some unforeseen conditions. One of them, we had a $63,000 change order that came through for EP Rock. When they opened up the ceilings, we talked about this, the walls didn't go all the way to the bottom of the roof. And so they had to come and actually build small walls on top of the walls. Otherwise, when you take out the 3 layers of ceiling that were up there, the staff are gonna hear each other, you know, through the walls, and so some of that stuff has to happen. You know, we've had some different changes as it relates to some of our air handlers and placements that way, but I think we're finally starting to get some of those things worked out and back on track. We are still, I believe, still right on target budget-wise, and our goal is to bring it in under budget, so.
Yes, thanks.
Bob.
Nick, could you comment on, I've heard some people in the neighborhood around EP Rock concerned about, we took down all those trees in front, it looks much different. I know some of them are ash, and we are expanding the drive, so that was gonna happen. They're
Yep.
concerned in the neighborhood is we are gonna plant new trees, right?
Yeah, we are. No, actually, you know, the tough thing that happened at EP Rock is we had a ton of dead ash trees at EP Rock that had to come down. And of course, they happened to be in all the places where we didn't need to cut trees. And then the trees that were in good shape were in places where we needed to cut trees. And so there was a tremendous difference, especially the front of the building with the amount of trees that are gone. But yes, similar to like what we did at the high school, we do have, there'll be tree plantings and things along those lines, in a variety of different types of trees so that we're not kind of all in on one variety. So yes, that'll all happen, but it will take, you know, years for them obviously to reach the same size of what we cut down, because they were pretty substantial trees, so.
Other questions or comments for Nick on the construction update? Otherwise, I'm sure in 2 weeks there'll be another construction update. All right. Now we'll move on to topics for discussion and/or possible action. We always start with the consent agenda items, and I'll entertain a motion pursuant to the spending language.
Mr. President, I move approval of the consent items and that the Chief Financial and Operations Officer be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $4,337,879.96.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Lynn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next up is the 25-26 food service prices. Bonnie, we discussed this. Any changes since our work session discussion last week?
Same recommendation.
Essentially, it's a 5-cent raise, is that right?
Correct. We are anticipating a 3% increase in our contracted service meal prices. And if you look at what USDA is also indicating is that the outlook is food prices are going to continue to go up. So we are recommending a 5-cent increases in all meal prices. Obviously, free and reduced would stay at the same rates. No change there.
So the reduced price stays the same, the other full prices, and that includes for adults?
Correct.
On breakfast and lunch, 5 cents?
Correct.
Okay. And just to give our folks who are listening and watching might not be able to see the fine print, the example is elementary breakfast is $1.70 for students, and then the price for an adult lunch is $4.95, so it's still under $5. But any other questions or comments for Bonnie?
Mr. President, just again, thanks to Bonnie for doing this homework. I had asked how many breakfasts and lunches we served. Adults lunch appears to be around 3,100, but in total for our district, it's 458,000 meals in 1 year. It's absolutely crazy. So thank you for that information. Nothing more.
And, all right, so you can still get about a $3 lunch, whether it's elementary, $3.15 if it's secondary lunch. All right, ready for a vote? All those in favor of a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, so
Second.
Megan, your motion is to,
Approve, sorry.
all right, thank you. That's good. I just didn't want a negative stated motion, that's good. And Rob, you
Second.
second? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. Last item on the agenda before we go into closed session. Oh, all right. Dave, your folks are here?
Yeah, well, we've got most of them anyway, so why don't we have Laura, Aaron, and Tom come on up? And as you know, we periodically bring forward curriculum updates. And tonight we're going to be talking about secondary mathematics. Very excited to bring this information forward. As you all know, we've been focusing a lot of energy on secondary mathematics, and tonight you're going to see the fruits of that labor. A lot of great progress. So we implemented a new math curriculum 2 years ago at the middle school, and then this year's our first year with the new algebra program. You're going to hear about next steps at the high school as well. We have sort of two celebrations. One of the celebrations will be the data that some really impressive growth. The second celebration, we're hoping we have some high school kids that were part of a math celebration that we'd like to bring forward and recognize, because it shows the other end of that spectrum, some really high-end, pretty amazing math students that celebrated or participated in a competition and did amazing work. So we're looking forward to that as well. When we talk about the work that happened at the middle school, I'm just going to share a little anecdote that there was a professional learning session. It was actually in this room. And we were talking about all of the work that went into the success with middle school and now going into high school math. And it was tough. We were asking a lot of our teachers, and they stepped up in a huge way. And one of the teachers just mentioned the fact that it was really tough, but then she said, but I'm so happy and so proud to be part of that journey. So just cool to see, and we're looking forward to continued success. But I'm going to turn it over to Laura and Aaron and Tom to share some data, and then we'll hopefully have some high school kids in a little bit.
All right. And we got first names of folks, but if you could just give your full name, thanks.
So this is Erin Larson. She's an instructional coach at the middle school, and Tom Johnston, instructional coach at the high school. And as Dave said, we're just so proud of the work that they have done in leading our teachers through these curriculum changes. It's really exciting, and I think you're going to be excited to see the data. So I'll let Erin talk a little bit about middle school math.
I think I turned it on. Yeah,
did.
I did. Okay. So what you have here is this year's 6th and 7th grade, beginning of the year and middle of the year growth measure data. This is a test that comes within our new curriculum, our HMH resource that we use. So what is exciting about this is we have kids coming in, and beginning of the year are testing above or on level, and that approaching even within the program, like that's okay because they haven't even really started 6th grade yet or 7th grade at the beginning of the year. That sounds so funny. So, and then we see that in both of these grades, we are increasing the amount of students who are on and above, which is really great. Because over the past several years, we've seen that we have lost students to proficiency, and now not only are we maintaining, but we're actually growing in both 6th and 7th grade. You can go to the next one, please. So here, we're going to look a little more deeply at the 8th grade data. So that top left one is actually last year's data, beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So we saw some really great, tremendous growth in 8th grade last year. But then down here in the bottom right, you see this year's beginning of the year, middle of the year, and we see even more growth there within the 8th grade. And then what's really exciting to me is the next slide, where we're comparing beginning of last year with beginning of this year, 8th grade. So starting off the year this year in 8th grade, we started with over 15% more students in the on or above category, and almost 9% less students, indicating that they needed additional support outside of what would happen within the core classroom. And then the next slide, we're going to compare last year's middle of the year data to this year's middle of the year data. So again, you see we're above, where we were a year ago. And then the last one, we're actually going to compare last year's end of the year with this year's middle of the year. So that the one on the right, on the left, would have been after a whole complete year of learning math, compared to middle of the year this year, where they still have half of the standards left to complete. And we're already have more students in the on and above category halfway through this year than we did after all of last year. And what I really like about this, and really focusing on the 8th grade, is that's really a culmination of all of the learning that they've had all throughout. Because they wouldn't be this successful in 8th grade if
experience success in sixth grade and then in seventh grade as well. So this is super exciting. And then knowing that our new algebra curriculum is just so much more rigorous and increasing what we're asking students to do, is we feel pretty good about sending these students to the high school to engage in learning in a much more rigorous resource.
Any questions about the data before we move on from those slides?
Just a quick comment. We know we've been having, or realizing some challenges as it relates to math at the middle school, and it's just fantastic to see the improvement. So thank you for your work.
What I wanted to share a little bit is the middle school math is a couple of years ahead of where the high school math is at in terms of implementation. And so this year, the algebra, for lack of a better word, algebra is piloting the first year of SAVIS moving forward. So we don't have the kind of the longitudinal data just yet, but we wanted to share the process that we kind of go through when we're looking at a curriculum change or adopting a new resource. So this is part of phase 3 where we dig into the resources that companies provide us. And so we'll look at assessments, we'll look at the standards, and then these resources are vetted against, are they high quality? So there's a nonprofit out there called Ed Reports, thank you, Blake, that will rate these as kind of meeting a certain expectation or exceeding a certain expectation. And we're only interested in looking at resources that meet and exceed how well they align to standards. So that's one of our first steps. And then, Tim, if you go to the next. So then when we go through this process, there's also heavy teacher involvement. So we bring the teachers in, they review the resource against kind of an internally built rubric, where the teachers will then rate anywhere from 3 to 6 resources, and they'll say they're meeting or exceeding our standards in-house as well. And then we bring in the top vendors for some presentations. And after going through this this past year, the teachers unanimously selected the resource that we went with, and that is for SAVIS. So SAVIS is kind of parent company by Pearson, so well-known in the educational world. And what we decided in moving this way is that we were going to pick a resource that had Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 in one full sequence. We knew that it would be fully aligned if we did that, and we didn't want to pick 3 different companies to have the 3 different courses. With this purchase, we get just a plethora of resources for students. So we get print copies of, we have a classroom set of textbooks for students. The students also have companion or kind of an individualized workbook, so a little bit different way of taking notes. But teachers have a lot of flexibility in how they want to use that. So whether the students kind of work individually or we put them in groups, there's a good resource there for students, as well as kind of a full comprehensive online access. So students can get online, they can do their own personalized work. We also have an option for adaptive work, so as students can get in there and as they get problems right, the problems get a little bit harder. And if they get one wrong, they get one down, they kind of levels out for the students to kind of meet them where they're at, so then we can support them moving up from there. Regardless of where the students are taking the course is the same. So algebra students at the middle school and algebra students at the high school are receiving the same course, same assessments, same standards.
Mr. President?
Yes.
With the online access, does that have like tutorials or, what's involved with that?
Yeah. Tim, if you want to go to the next. So that was your perfect segue. So one of the support, we wanted to share a little bit about support that the students have, both from teachers and at home. So there are a couple options for providing, for parents to provide support for their students. One option is with all of our resources is students can always, or parents can always have their students log into their Chromebook through ClassLink. So whether it's support with social studies or math, parents can always have their student do that. However, SAVIS also has an online family engagement that provides some videos and some prompts for parents to support their kids as well. We know that as we're getting into algebra, geometry, algebra 2, that math is getting a little uncomfortable for some parents. And so having that opportunity for parents to support their students at home. And then we also have the additional support for students within the high school. So these are high school specific options that we have available. But every hour of every day, we have a licensed math teacher available that will provide targeted intervention support for students. based specifically on skills that they could provide or could work on. But then we also have drop-in support where students can just say, I need a math teacher to help me with my homework. And it might not be the teacher that they have in class throughout the day, it's just a different teacher. But an algebra teacher can go, or an algebra student can go to a calculus teacher or vice versa, and all the students have that available to them. Our teachers also request students during advisory a high frequency of time. The algebra teachers during that time in particular, it's 25 kids in the room, and it's crazy, but that's an option for kids to get the support. And of course, the tutor.com. And so we always have that. That's a 24/7 resource for students to log in and get really targeted support. So no matter where that student's at, we feel good about the opportunity either to enrich where they're at and get them above grade level and continue to challenge them, or meet them where they're at and build from there. And then lastly, just a couple highlights. As I mentioned, the new resource has a ton of different ways we can, the teachers can support the students, a lot of between print and online materials. We feel really good about the rigor of the grade level materials. It's challenging for students. And that is one of the challenges for teachers as well, is finding ways to get that information to them. But what we love is that this really allows the teachers to focus their time and effort on how to teach the material. So their expertise and their professionalism as teachers can really be geared towards how do I reach the students, how do I adjust my instruction so that the students can grow as much as possible. And then along with that is just really robust support for teachers to then implement. So as stated, Aaron and I can provide the same implementation support, whether it's at the middle school or the high school. The teachers PLC on a frequent basis where they're bringing data into those conversations. We'll do check-ins as necessary with Laura and Dave and building administration. And then also, when we have questions, we have representatives from these companies that we can reach out to and get support as well. So really no stone unturned, full team effort. And the algebra team this year, and I'm really excited about geometry and algebra 2 next year, have really, they are working so hard, and we just know that they're willing to do what's best for students, and it's been really enjoyable to be a part of.
Okay. Any questions from the presentation? I guess my question was, when you talked about it being very rigorous for the students, does that probably means it's going to be rigorous for parents that want to help their kids with homework, right?
Well, we have those online tutorials for them.
Okay, good, good. All right. Anybody have another question? Or?
I have just a comment.
Yeah.
I wish that, I mean, I'm amazed at the stuff that you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. You see the results, but then the support and the access it's incredible. I mean, it makes me want to learn something. So thank you so much. We know you guys work really hard on this and take a lot of pride in what you're doing, and we're very proud of you. Thank you.
Yes.
And as Rob said earlier, it's so great to have good news about the math in middle school and now high school. So just excellent work.
Yep, and just real quick, again, thanks to the three folks up here, they're putting in a lot of work. But if you see a math teacher at the secondary level, thank them. They're doing great work, and they've really stepped up in a huge way.
Good. Anyone else? Lynn, did you
Yes.
have any?
I just wanted to comment, I did click on those links for parent tutorials and help, and they were easy to understand. I mean, they were clear and, well, maybe just the first one I clicked on was easy to understand.
All right. Thank you very much for the report. Look forward to hearing more good news in that route. All right. Now we'll get back to the action items or discussion, and that is the 25-26 employee benefit renewals. I'll turn over to Nick and Bonnie to explain this agenda item and where we're at timing-wise.
Sure.
Okay.
So one of our goals this year was to really invite our staff members, not just teachers, but all of our staff members, to participate in an insurance committee. So an email, just to give you a little history of where we were at. So an email went out to the entire staff. Everybody was invited to participate in an insurance committee. We did have 3 meetings throughout the year. The first 2 meetings were really base building, like what does our insurance cover? We really looked at all of our insurances, not just health insurance, but dental. Our third meeting, which I don't believe Scott was at, but we had a third meeting, and we really talked kind of about when we started looking at our experience, which I don't know if you can bring that up, Tim, but that was another tab on the agenda. we started talking about the experience of our plan year. We brought it to the board last month and bringing to you again. Typically, a good plan year would be to be at 100%. For every dollar we put in, we pay $1 in claims. If you go all the way to the right, I believe, it's too small. What are we at, 120? Yep. So as of the end, we're at 128% this year. So if you go over 2 columns to the right, we're operating at a deficit of $2.2 million.
And we're not through the year yet.
And we're not through the year. And if you look at our months, typically you have up and down months. I don't know if it's an anomaly year or what's going on this year, but month after month, we are just not having good claim experience. At our third meeting with the insurance committee, we really started talking about some of the, what our consultants put out as recommendations of how we could get down to that 8%, because our renewal came in at 25%. Every percent is.
What does that mean?
Every percent is approximately $100,000. So in our budget projections, we estimated about an $800,000 increase in premiums. With a 25% increase renewal, it would be 2.5 million.
Bonnie, and when you say 25% increase renewal, you're assuming, well, that's making a projection will be at 125% by the end of the year?
That was
based on
provided
this?
to us by Health Partners through our
Okay.
underwriting claims.
Thank you.
Yep. So we kind of, at our third meeting, we started say, have been sharing this information throughout the year with the committee. And again, to go back, this committee was an advisory committee. It wasn't a decision-making. It was to say, give us some feedback. One of the things, a big one, was to eliminate weight loss medication like Wegovy. That would be almost a 5% increase in, or decrease in premiums if we didn't cover that. There was some questions from the committee that we really took into account, is that we have quite a few people, like 150 participants that utilize that. So rather than eliminate that coverage, what we proposed was increase the deductible up to the $300 per month. Copay, I'm sorry. The average premium per month for Wegovy is about $1,000. So the district is still picking up that amount, but to bridge, to try to not pull the rug out of those people that are depending on that medication. But that is still an option out there, so we tried to meet somewhere in the middle on that one. The deductible from $350, $700 to $500, $1,000. Again, that was a compromise. Our consultant thought that that was well below benchmark and should be higher. But we tried to get the middle of the ground. The second bullet point is to implement an Achieve network. So to offer 2 plans for employees. One plan is you can go, there's no network, you can go to that, but it costs more. The second one is an Achieve network, which is restricted to Health Partners. Hudson Physician is a part of that network, but it would reduce, there's bigger discounts for the plan. Participants would have a lower premium for that. Specialty drugs, 150 is industry, what our consultant told us is industry norm. 25 is kind of unheard of. So they are recommending that go to the benchmark. And then our last one, and again, this was to try to get us within that 8%. We actually, with these recommendations, actually only get down to 12% increase. So we would still need to find another $400,000 to get there. But our goal was, what the last bullet would be to make the open network onto an 83-17%. So district pays 83% of premium, employee 17%. And then if you were to participate in that Achieve network, it would be 85-15. We did run the numbers. If you kept the open network at 83-17, but made the Achieve network, sorry, that's not on here, so you can't find it. And then kept the 87-4, 12-6 split that it currently is for the Achieve network, it would only increase the percent by 1%. So that would be a 13% increase.
Bonnie, I know this is hard. There's a
No.
lot of numbers, and I
Yep.
always have too many questions.
No.
So when you say a 12% increase, you mean an increase to the district's
That's
costs?
the district cost,
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
So thank you for doing all this, and I understand, my understanding of the timing, I talked to Nick earlier today, Dr. Willett earlier today. You were waiting for data, and open enrollment usually starts May 1. Just to get a sense of like, why is this happening now, and why does it feel quick? And
Yeah, typically, districts receive their renewals in April, end of March. We've been pushing on them just because we've been trying to get it to be better than what it was, and we thought our experience might be better, but really it hasn't. I guess, there's several options you could do. One, you could say, we're just gonna eat the 2.4 million. We didn't think that we could come to the board and say that after we created a budget with 800,000. Two, we can take some of these recommendations or we could adopt what we proposed to you. That's another option. Another option is if we eliminate Wegovy, that's a 5%, and don't have the copay, that's another option. We tried to give you different scenarios. None of them are great. And again, would we have liked to have more discussion throughout the district? Yep. But we also, our open enrollment period is May 1st. We probably can push that till May 15th to give more time. But ultimately, I think the board needs to, do we want to make clean changes to stay within our budget projections, or do we want to just eat the 25%, and that's a $2.4 million increase?
or somewhere in the middle. I have
somewhere, yep.
two questions to make sure I understand
Correct.
things before. So when we talk about weight loss drugs like Wegovy, that means that if someone has type 2 diabetes and is on a similar drug, that wouldn't apply then?
Correct.
Because it's, okay.
Correct.
And then,
But it would apply if they're on, like, we had a situation today, we checked, somebody's on Wegovy to reduce their high blood pressure.
Yep.
That would not be covered.
Yep.
It would be at the copay. It would be covered, but at that $300
Okay.
copay.
And can you tell me, it's like I'm at my insurance meeting. I think I ask this every year at work.
That's okay.
Can you explain, give me some examples of specialty drugs? What are they? I feel like I don't know. Not that you have to give a long list, but just to help me understand how that's different from the formulary generic.
Specialty
name brand.
drugs, and I kind of researched it today, so I'm not an expert on it, but it's typically for high, Skyrizi, I believe, is on there. Humira was on there, but now it's not generic, it's called biosimilar, is that what it's called? That's on there. What's the other one? There's a whole, but typically they're not common drugs, and if you go to the Health Partners website, they have the links and you could look up your specific medications.
Just a question about, you mentioned a couple times Wegovy, right? That's a weight loss drug.
Correct.
But if you're diabetic or wherever you're on Ozempic, that would be covered,
Correct.
which does the same thing basically as Wegovy does. So, I guess my question is, well, what is it going to cost us per year to have Wegovy co-paid through us, potentially?
So if we have full coverage, the Wegovy coverage they're estimating for next year is $500,000.
Okay.
And they're also, at recent insurance meetings we've gone to, is that there's 12 more categories of illness that are going to have that as a remedy.
And that's not going to change.
It's going to continue.
It's going to continue to rise.
And the cost is continuing to increase.
So are you saying, Bonnie, without the $300 copay for a drug like Wegovy, it's $500,000?
Correct.
Even with the $300 copay?
With the
Not-
$300 copay, it knocks it down probably about half, because we do get
Okay.
rebates on that.
Okay. And we cover, is Wegovy just like Ozempic, same deal? Same category of drugs?
Yeah, Ozempic is a little bit different, because typically that's for, what I'm learning, that's for diabetic, and that would be a covered benefit.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Does this renewal impact our stop-loss coverage? Are there any impacts to that with?
We had our stock loss covered. It increased, I believe it was 14%, and it was locked in last year for a 2-year contract, so that was good.
Okay, so going back to, on the timing, we could take action tonight, but you're saying that we could still get the benefit defined or redefined, if you will, and give employees time to open enroll before May 15th? Would we have to make the decision, we being the board, and that would include the 3 new board members, making that decision in 2 weeks or the May meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do the April 28th or potentially the May meeting. It's just going to be really tight. We'll have to close down how long the open enrollment period is. It'll probably be only a 2-week, maybe 3-week open enrollment period versus a 1-month open enrollment period. The other thing I think, and Bonnie talked about, and don't want it to overlook, is we are looking at offering a new plan option called the Achieve Network. And one of the things that potentially could happen too, because it is a substantial increase to employees, there's just no doubt about it. I mean, it's big dollars, and it's big dollars to all of our staff, especially our hourly staff. But right now, if everything plays out the way it is, we have to come up with an extra $2.2 million this budget year to cover our health insurance. And if we don't make these changes, and it plays out next year, similar to how it plays out this year, we got to come up with another $2.5 million on top of that. And so what we were trying to do is trying to find some type balance where we're only having to come up with an extra 1.2 million essentially, going into next year. But it is substantial. The Achieve plan, one of the things I just passed out to you guys, had Bonnie run the numbers. What if we could keep the same ratio, the 87.5 to 12.5 ratio as far as employer paid to employee paid? What would the increase then be if somebody wanted to go on the Achieve Network, which is the same benefit levels, correct?
Correct.
Just a different network. It'd be about $17 a paycheck or $34 a month for family versus $80 a paycheck or a $160 difference for the open access, which is the plan we have. So it would give people an option to select a different coverage. Now, the biggest difference between the Achieve Network and the open access is the network. There's going to be, the Achieve Network is Health Partners Network. It's primarily Health Partners folks, but they do have other folks. We did confirm today, Hudson Physicians is in the Achieve Network, the Urgent Care is in the Achieve Network, things like that. So there's an option. We're trying to do another option for folks that, would maybe cost less. But we're really struggling. I mean, we've had years, last 5 years, we've been over 100% every year. And we've raised health insurance rates anywhere from 5%, 8%. We don't know if this is an anomaly year. I mean, it could be just a total anomaly and things are going to go back down to normal, or this could be the new normal for us. When we tried to look at where exactly are we getting hit the hardest in our plan, it's not the really big claims where our stop loss kicks in. Actually, I think right now we've only had one claim hit our stop loss insurance. We have a lot of claims in that $30,000 to $60,000 range, which those are tough claims because our stop loss is at $150,000. And so, some of the medication changes, the thought process behind the weight loss changes was if we went to a $300 copay, it'd give people an opportunity to understand that there's a strong possibility this medication could go away in a year. If that change makes it easier for the district board, maybe it can stay, but it's kind of, we didn't want to all of a sudden cut a medication and give people a month's notice on some of the stuff. But there's no doubt about it, it's expensive. The board could choose to wait till the 28th. They could wait till the 10th. They could ask us to say, can you get, if all of a sudden we say, okay, the district portion, we're going to do what's on this sheet for the district portion, but the employee portion, we're only going to raise it half as much as what we're proposing. And then, what you'd be doing is kind of rolling the dice to see, is that going to be enough premium collected to pay what happens next year? It may be. Nobody has a crystal ball. If you would have told us a year ago that our claims are going to be 125% at this point in the year, we would have said we have no indication to point to that. But, you know, and I think the other piece with this, and Bonnie hasn't totally touched on it, the dental insurance piece, because I know you've gotten some emails on this.
Sorry, I can talk about that if you want.
Do you want to kind of go through the dental insurance pieces as well?
Sure, so we did, Delta Dental did give us a renewal, and one of the things they said was that our plan is very disproportionate, that it's very rare that a plan does not have 100% coverage for preventive care. And if you look at our data, I believe there was 500 people that have not been to the dentist in like 3 years that are covered on our plan. And they really highly recommended that we should, I think if you keep going down, yeah, dental, that our annual maximum, they said keep that the same. The deductible only applies if it's a, like a cavity or something like that, but if it's preventative care, it does not apply. The preventative coinsurance, obviously 100%. The fillings would stay the same, and basically crowns would go from 80 to 50%. If you actually do a calculation, which we did with the committee at the last meeting, almost 95% of the time, if you go, it will be less out of pocket for employees because preventative is going to be paid 100% versus being paid at 80%. And the majority of visits of what people go, it's for preventative care. So really, we thought this was a really good idea to try to get people in, and not only is dental health important, it affects your health insurance, and they really get a strong tie to that. So the recommendation, there would be no increase in premiums for that. The district pays for that policy for the employees, but just really switching the emphasis on preventative care of our plan. The insurance committee, we actually surveyed the people that were at the committee, and all of them actually favored this plan change.
So we have 800 employees and 500 haven't gone to the dentist in 3 years.
Well, some dependents.
Some dependents.
This would be like,
And this is just a benefit that we provide
yes.
at no cost
To the employee.
to the employee. Okay.
Mr. President, I just
Yes,
want to
Kate.
clarify, in one of the documents, it says all recommendations for changes keep comparables below industry benchmarks.
Yes.
Do you know, is industry benchmarks like other districts or
It was
private sector?
It was Gallagher, and it's their book of business, so it's both school districts and private.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. President?
Yes, Rob.
And so with, we want to be competitive with other school districts. Are we seeing other school districts working through these exact same issues? Are most districts looking at increasing what their employees pay for benefits?
I
Do we have a
guess
sense?
I've not done the comparables. I would say anecdotally through our business managers, most districts have gone to high deductible plans with HSAs. I don't know if a lot of districts have, I guess, I don't know if you've done that study. I don't think we've done that analysis of what other districts are doing. I would say when you talk to other, like my business manager group, high deductibles are very common with HSA contributions. Also, options with restricted networks to keep costs down for participants are becoming more and more popular. And if you even look at some districts, very restrictive on certain procedures. Like some districts, they're saying that you can only go to this place for a knee replacement, and if you choose not to go there, you have to pay the difference. I think if you look at Rice Lake's plan, it's very restrictive of what you can do, and I don't think that's a path we want to go down. I think we value people's choice. But at some point, I guess you need to make a decision of, what we can afford as a district.
And as far as the open access plan versus the Achieve network, were these premiums determined based on a certain percentage of participation? And so, for instance, if it's 50-50 hypothetically, if 80% of the district employees choose the Achieve network, are we going to be financially in trouble with the rates on the open network?
They did the quotes based on between a 30 and 40% participation in the Achieve Network. The more people we can get to go to the Achieve Network, because there's negotiated discounts with those providers, it's better for the district. So I think if we get any more than that, it's going to be a good thing for us.
Okay.
I did talk to River Falls. They actually put in the Achieve Network last year, and I think they estimated 20%, and they far exceeded that, and people have been very satisfied with that network as an option.
And we're saying that the Achieve Network, which I thought didn't include Hudson Physicians, now
Yes,
it does,
it
and
does.
Health Partners?
Yes.
Okay. So my concern is, as Scott mentioned earlier in the evening, you know, we want to have good benefits. We want to, you know, I don't know that is a cornerstone of us attracting and retaining teachers. I'm worried that the pendulum is swinging. You brought up River Falls. I've heard that their starting salary is, you know, more than ours now, and that we've potentially losing out on some teachers because of that. So my concern is, like, can we look at this as a whole? You know, what can we do to maybe get our younger educators? This is going to hit them hard. Our paras are going to get hit hard by this, and that's a big concern of me. Because for me, I don't know that we can justify, you know, covering an all $2.2 or $2.4 million when we just passed a $5 million referendum to help fix a lot of things, knowing it was never going to fix everything, and knowing that there's going to have to be some shared pain. So I would like to entertain something like that. Like if we're going to go with changing it and it's going to be a larger cost, could we look at some type of restructuring of steps or something, and you know, maybe a little fund balance, nothing to damage our bond rating or anything, but because it's basically a 1 year, maybe it's a wait and see. And also, I'm not saying we have to vote tonight, but I would have a concern moving forward if we have 3 new board members that are coming on that haven't had this information, and we're going to be asking them to vote on something that is a pretty big deal.
Well,
Mr.
welcome to the club. Yes, all right.
Just to echo what Bob said, I think this is going to be important when we think about pay increases later in the year. You know, how much would pay increases offset this? You know, we just saw that food prices might go up 7% this year. So, you know, I am concerned about how this could impact, in particular, hourly staff. I know you all did this quickly today. I appreciate it. I love that we could offer the Achieve Network, the new network at the same level of district and employee split on the cost for next year. And with big changes, I hesitate to have a shortened open enrollment period when people have big decisions to make. I would like to not have the open access network go up quite as much, but I think the other thing is I worry about those specialty medications going up so much. Is there a way to do bigger changes might be coming. It depends on what we see next year, right? And I think healthcare costs are going up everywhere, like every cost is going up. But could we not raise specialty medications so much? Because those are usually medications people really need. And I don't know if there's a way to not do the open access network going up so much. Can it be 85-15? Or are we just eating so much of it then that it's such a problem for us? That was a lot at once, sorry.
Right.
I mean,
Well, as I'm hearing, Megan, you go through that, what I wanted to step back is look at, again, bigger picture, because there's a lot of moving parts to this whole healthcare thing. And in our firm, which is private sector, I know it's a different ballgame than the public sector, but you know, we always try to balance, a balancing act between user pay and just trying to provide that safety net for all, right? And things cost more, and you know, we were hopeful, I guess, that we would have similar losses, but if we're using the system more, it shouldn't be a shock that it's going to cost more. But again, stepping back, bigger picture, had projected, as we were going into the whole discussion about the next budget, right, and potential need for a referendum, we were looking at a $2.9 million shortfall for the next budget, right, 25, 26. That was assuming we were going to have an $800,000 increase in these healthcare costs. Instead, it's going to be $2.5 million. So that's 1.7 has to be added now to 2.9 if we keep everything the same and not change anything. So that's $4.6 million.
Well,
shortfall.
but you got to remember, we did make cuts.
I was getting there, Nick.
Yeah.
I was getting there, all right? So on that 2.9, you know, what we've been preaching since we had the vote, you know, and again, it wasn't a unanimous vote on this board because people look at things differently and whatnot, but we had a commitment, even for the people that were against it, that this has got to be done by a combination of cuts and referendum. And we heard people allude to the referendum. I'm looking at my email. Between the announcement of the agenda and this meeting, I got 6 emails. I don't know about the other board members. Pretty sure they're all teachers and/or staff, but I recognize many of the names. There's 6 emails. Surprisingly, all 6 people are against having their insurance raised. I don't know, going to be a shock to anyone that people don't want to see their insurance raised. But again, there's a cost that it's got to be absorbed somehow. And we've been talking about potential cuts. Raising our cost of our benefits was something that was in that discussion as far back as January. Now, it didn't go over very popularly in that room that all 7 of us on the board attended. There were things that were more disfavored than others. You know, for instance, going to every other day cleaning was one of the things that they would prefer to do rather than freeze or cut teacher pay or cut positions and so forth. But to address that 2.9 million, even before we knew what the results of the referendum, the board had preliminarily, and the administration, come up with 1.7 million in cuts. So it didn't cover that whole 2.9, but we got it down to 1.2, and now this news bumps it up another 1.7. So we're back where we were to begin with, even with nearly 2 million in cuts. So just because we passed the referendum, now we're going to have people that will say, we can do bigger pay raises, we can do all the bells and whistles of a benefits package and keep that, all that, and we can keep all 6 buildings open, and we can keep every employee and not have to cut anyone. No, that 5 million is not going to be able to allow us to do that. Maybe 1 year, but then we're going to be back into this. We've got a 6-year non-reoccurring. My advice to the board is to continue to build trust with the community. You got to have integrity. Follow through with what you say you're going to do. If you say it's going to be a balance of referendum, of revenue increases and spending cuts, you got to be willing to do the spending cuts along with the referendum increase. So I do think, though, there's a lot of moving parts. And if I were in the shoes of these people sending me emails, I'd want to be part of that discussion. There is going to be a TAC meeting Wednesday, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say give them that opportunity to weigh in, have the insurance committee meet if that's possible. But if the board doesn't make a decision on the 28th, definitely by May 12th, that's the next action meeting, it would need to be made because just the way of timing is, open enrollment's got to be offered now. We can't postpone that to next fall. And we have to decide this before we know what pay raises are. So my question in the big picture was, what is the assumption when it comes to pay raises for this whole projected deficit budget we have for next year? We were not planning on freezing pay. What were we planning on giving?
Correct. We calculated the 2.95 CPI is included in the.
And what does that translate in terms of dollars then, if we did that 2.95%?
I don't have that, but I can get that for you. Sorry.
Because I'm just saying, if we don't make any changes to the benefits package, that money's got to come somewhere. So then the question is the benefits package that important that it should remain untouched as opposed to possibly freezing or having lower increases in pay? mean, that's the other that's the only other time. And I wish the pay would be discussed first, but the way it comes up in the discussions in the annual negotiations and whatnot is it has to be decided after the benefits. Anecdotally, what I've heard is that there's not many districts in Minnesota that can compete with our benefits package here in Hudson School District. But conversely, they make more money over Minnesota teachers generally do than Hudson teachers. So it's a balancing act. And if my firm, or in the private sector, was paying 87.4% of the cost, I would be doing cartwheels. Because in the private sector, if you're starting to look at dependents and spouses included, you know, the employer is only paying closer to 60% of that. They might pay 85% or 80% for the employee, but it's less for dependents. I don't know about you, Rob, or Kate and Bob. I mean, all of us work in the private sector. So anyway, you were going to say something, Rob?
Yeah, just to build on what you were saying, you know, I mean, we did spend time with Nick and the cabinet's help, better understanding where we could make cuts. But if 75, 80% of our district's budget is people, salaries, benefits, I mean, you know, you can't cut your way out of, you know, where we could be. You know, and so ultimately, it's a hard decision, but, you know, something for maybe next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. President?
Yes, Kate.
I guess, you know, we've gotten emails on this, and I know it's something that's really near and dear to people's hearts and their pocketbook. Certainly, nobody ever wants to see things change in their pocketbook. I don't, unless it's something amazing's happened. But I think as we move forward, because we are looking at struggles with our budget, we're gonna have a lot of people come to us with something that's really near and dear to them. And as a board, we're gonna have to say no to some people, maybe, you know, but I think we can't always look at getting a few emails and then all of a sudden we're all worried about what we should do or should we not do it, and that's not to say we shouldn't get feedback, but I don't think it shouldn't be a surprise to people that we need to make cuts in our budget. And, you know, one group's gonna say, make a cut here, one group's gonna say, make a cut here, but don't do it to mine. So I think we need to keep that in mind, that it's kind of an impending doom that we are going to have to do that.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yeah, I think your point, there are a lot of moving parts, and this is complicated, and I'm not a health insurance expert, though I will say my work does cover 80% of my family's healthcare costs, so it's, other places still do it. If we delay this and we talk about it at the work session, and then it maybe even extends to the action meeting, when does open enrollment, is there a have-to-close date for open enrollment? Is it June 1st?
It doesn't have to close on June 1st, but if we have to process all the changes, I mean, I would say by the 15th of June, probably
Okay.
no later, because especially with this amount of changes that we'll have, it takes a lot of, I mean, it's Andrea's office that has to make all those
Yeah.
changes and get those in, so.
But if we waited and got some feedback and you ran possibly different scenarios, and we could still give people 3 or 4 weeks for open enrollment if we made our decision by May 12th at the latest?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about May 15th through maybe that first week in June. And then we make a decision, and then they have the rest of, that gives us time to get those.
If they had 3 weeks, okay.
Does the benefit committee meet? Can we get them to meet?
We can definitely schedule a meeting, yep.
Can we make this decision on the 28th at the work session?
Yeah,
Is
you
that-
can if you want.
Because, and then we still could have a month, more or less,
We
for
can.
open enrollment.
We can post the item on the agenda that it's going to be a possible action item. Because we don't usually take a lot of action at work sessions, but we have. You guys will probably be approving a personnel pack. We do that. So we would just notice it similar to how it is, you know, up for discussion, possible action
I
at
think
the
it
work
would be a
session.
good idea. I mean, I think just out of respect, I think we have the time, and I know we want to get this done. I think we should be talking to the teacher advisory committee. And it's not so much, it's a conversation that we all are going to need to figure out all the different moving parts. I would like to see bringing up base pay, because this wipes out any raise. And I would also like to see using some of our fund balance. This is an opportunity to use a little bit of it to bring, make the blow not be quite so bad. Not saying that the district's going to cover all of that, that we're all going to have to, everybody's going to have to pay for it in some way. And I would like to see, these are all the things, right? Make a list. Got a pen? Make a list. Yes, stop it. I really would like to know what other school districts are doing, just to kind of get an idea where we're at. And I don't know if it's even possible. Can we add more plans, high deductible plans? And I mean, I had a discussion, we all talk about private, what happens in the private sector. It's not exactly the same. But similarly, through our insurance, we have an open access and we have a restricted. We have open access that we get because our kids are in college, so they're throughout the country. So we have to do that kind of, or you'll find out when your kids go to college, colleges require your kids to come with health insurance, or you will be paying for it there. So there's lots of choices to be made, but I think that we can figure this out so this is a little more palatable for everybody and we can get through this.
Mr. President?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and just, I would caution this board and the next board, anytime you talk about spending fund balance for ongoing expenses, you quickly drain your savings. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. It's more so, is it a blip? Is it a blip this much? Do you know what I mean?
Well, and I think, I saw Andrea reach for the mic, but I worry about asking them to try to put together a third option so quickly. I think.
There is no ability for us to put together a high
Okay.
deductible plan for
Yeah.
next year. It can't happen. So if we're going to
Okay.
talk about high deductible plan, that would be kind of a next step.
Yep.
Going into next year. It would not, the options on the table for this year are going to be these two plans.
Great.
And depending on what the tweaks are related to the cost associated with these, but there's not going to be a
Okay.
third option.
Good,
We don't
'cause-
have the
Good
ability
to
to do it.
clarify.
Because I think, that's the question. Is this a blip, or is this going to be an ongoing issue? And I think this is going to be something that the board, keep showing us every month where we're at. And then do we need some more holistic reform or changes or other options the following year? Like, I know it stinks to have to keep thinking like this, but.
Well, and we've had those discussions because I came from a district that really emphasized high deductibles, and I think there's benefits because it improves consumerism of participants. So I think we've talked about that, and that would be our goal for next year. One of my questions is we do have TAC on Wednesday, and if we get the insurance committee, what type of information would you, because I feel like if we go, the response is gonna be, don't change anything. I mean, what information are you looking for, just so we bring you what their feedback that's helpful?
I would think that prioritizing would be helpful. Like,
Okay.
what is more important to you? Again, keeping the big picture is if they are willing to entertain, the entire compensation package has to be considered. But we're just looking at benefits here, and I don't know who it was that talked about $2,000 increase to a family, but what I'm seeing is a $300 increase on the deductible. So we're not talking high deductible, but a $300 increase from $700 to $1,000. And I'm seeing if they chose the Achieve Network, it would be a $270 increase. So I add $270 and $300, that's $570. That doesn't include the changes on some of these drugs, but assuming that you're just looking at, standard, not everyone is on all these specialty drugs and so forth. So,
Yep, and
I like your point, Jamie. It's not a matter of visiting with the TAC and having them say, well, keep everything the same, it's, things need to change and help us prioritize. I very much like that idea.
And to clarify, when I mentioned fund balance bank, that would just be a small to ease the pain, as Molly said, for 1 year or whatever, to see where the new normal is, if there is one. And Rob is completely right. We're not going to give up our financial position for bond and all that stuff, so.
Mr. President, I agree. I'm not saying, I also don't think we should spend fund balance ongoing to deal with insurance costs. I think it's, I kind of see it as a bridge as we figure out what is the longer-term outlook here. Yeah, how do people prioritize pay versus this? Versus are people more concerned with the premium increases versus drug cost changes? I think the $300 copay for weight loss drugs, from what I hear, that's still very good compared to what most employers do. And I know that stinks for people who are on them, but.
All right. Any other comments on this? I'm not hearing that anyone making a motion for tonight, but if this is going to be put on the next agenda, I haven't heard anybody say postpone it definitely to May 12th, but I don't know what can be learned and gathered in 2 weeks' time versus 4. Go ahead.
I move to table this conversation to our work session.
Second.
Glad
Motion.
not to vote on it.
Motion and second by 2 of the members that aren't going to be here, but all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And now I'll entertain a motion pursuant to the language in the.
Hang on 1 minute. Yep.
Yeah.
So we wanted to save the best for last. So we do have 2 students that we're here to recognize. So Beth and Tori Peel, if you could come on up.
Great.
So we started the day with a little celebration and update on secondary math, and Beth and Tori accomplished something pretty impressive with secondary math. They're both calculus students in Mr. Kaufman's class, and they participated in the UW River Falls Integration Bee. I'm going to have them talk a little bit about what that's all about and what they accomplished.
So last week, Monday, we went to the integration bee at UWRF, and we were invited because, like you said, we are in Mr. Kaufman's AP Calculus BC class, but Tori and I have been taking it as a dual credit class, so instead of trying to pass an AP test and hopefully that gets us credit, we're actually taking it and getting college credit through UWRF. So I think that concept is really cool. But we went to the integration bee. It's basically like a spelling bee, but for math. So there was like 30 people in the room, and we would like go up to this chalkboard, and everyone would solve a math problem, and then we both made it to the last round. So it was us and another college student, and that was the lightning round. So we had to race. It was really fun. And then the first person to get 3 points won. So yeah, she was runner-up and I won, and I just thought no, it was really fun, and we didn't really know what to expect, but I thought it was really fun. We kind of just did it for fun. We didn't know what was going to happen, but yeah, I had so much fun.
Like she said, we didn't really know what was going to happen. We kind of found out about it 1 week before, and so we signed up and obviously didn't know what to expect, and so we didn't really have much time to prepare. But honestly, being in Mr. Kaufman's class the past 2 years was more preparation than we could have ever asked for. And I know that they talked about Raider time before in the other math part, but we've been utilizing that the past 2 years a lot, and we've spent a lot of time in his class outside of our actual class, because study halls, and we've both only taken study halls for 1 semester both these past years, so it was just really nice to have extra time during the school day, not outside of school, but being able to work with our friends who are also in the class, and also when it was really, really nice to have Mr. Kaufman there as a resource whenever we had questions. And so yeah, I'm just really happy that we've had this opportunity to take these classes, because they've really prepared us for not only that integration bee, but also for our future plans next year. And I'm just super happy that we've had this opportunity to build a great foundation for our future. And yeah, thank you.
Mr. President,
1 minute, right? We have board members that have comments, yes. Sir.
yeah. So first off, Rock Chalk Jayhawk.
Yeah.
Congrats again on University of Kansas.
Thank you.
Fantastic. How did you guys learn about this UWRF event?
Mr. Kaufman just I think it was we were taking a test that day, and before the test he was like, oh, there's also this opportunity, and we didn't know. I think that this was the 4th year that a Hudson student has won the Integration Bee. So we didn't know that this is a thing, people had been doing it before we went. So I don't know, he just was like, here's the link, and there's a QR code, so yeah.
That's awesome.
We just
Congrats.
signed up.
So yeah, congratulations, and just one question, what was harder, winning the math competition or sitting through a school board meeting?
Actually, it's been really interesting. I like listening to it.
No, it's not, it's not.
I just want to say congratulations, great job. Earlier, before you guys arrived, we talked about the fact that 3 of us are leaving the school board, but I can't think of a more appropriate way to end our service on the board is hearing the achievements directly from our students. And it just fills me with pride to hear how well you guys have done. And it's integrated so well on the subject matter of our agenda today. We're talking about secondary mathematics. So thank you for living and breathing what you've been taught here, and thank you. I'm sure you guys are going to excel. Unfortunately, not going to UW-Madison, but anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Now, anything else to come before the body? Well, good, because it's not on the agenda. Next up, closed session. So I'll entertain a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to the language.
Just letter B, not letter A.
Okay, very good. Again.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E, to deliberate or negotiate the sale of public properties wherever competitive or bargaining reasons require.
We have a second by Kate. This requires a roll call vote. Bauman. Brown.
Aye.
Garza. Powers. Robson.
Aye.
Rozowski.
Aye.
And Johnson, aye. We go into closed session. We will not return to open session. Thank you.